Happy May.
Happy May.
We have tidings of good joy to
We
start
do,
the month.
despite the world. Y- Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things we didn't even talk about this beforehand, but May, like for May 1st, was May Day.
Mm.
And one of the things that I really got into was how it was International Workers' Day and how the U.S. Fought against celebrating International Workers' Day with the international community. And I felt a togetherness with the international community by celebrating and talking about it, which was really cool for me, to me.
Yeah, you have all these random fun facts, and I very much appreciate that. Um, isn't it also, I feel like it's a specific heritage month, and I should have probably searched for this prior.
I think it's Asian Heritage Month, and then it
It
also might be
is
Mental Health Awareness Month.
AAPI month, Heritage Month, Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. I think it's also like Military Family Awareness Month or something. Somebody I follow on TikTok is military family adjacent. But yeah, so all of the celebratory months, since we're now officially
Hmm
out of Autism Month, yay. Now we can just go back to autism somewhat existing and no one being aware of it and no one
I
accepting it.
want to say you escaped it, and it wasn't quote unquote that bad, as in like there weren't any incredibly large. Well, I guess they're gutting uh, special education services and the 504 and all that. I mean, besides that,
Besides that, and a deadly virus is starting.
oh yeah.
It's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's
Let's
fine.
talk about this deadly virus.
Let's talk about it. So the Hantavirus, which you alerted me to, thank you. Um, Let me pull up the news article here. Boop, bloop, bloop.
Which,
So
by the way, the name is terrifying.
it is. Yeah. So this Hantavirus outbreak happened on a cruise ship, and this ship, I guess, had just been kind of floating out in the ocean for a while, and world leaders have been kind of trying to figure out, what are we going to do about this? Are we going to let them dock? Are we going to let them disembark? Are we going to keep them contained? And so that ship has now been docked and people have been let off. And so the current status is everyone saying, I'm sorry, you did what?
And online, like the all the TikToks were like, "I'm sorry, I don't want to sound rude or crass or like I don't care, but do not let those people dock." And then there's even like this image of somebody, like a lot of people in the comment section, especially on TikTok, because you could share images with pictures as comments. They have like the ship floating and then a finger pushing the ship down.
Oh
So
my
I mean,
gosh.
people are very against it docking, but it has docked.
Yeah, well, and I feel like this is deja vu from the beginning of COVID-19. And I feel that, okay, so I don't know if you've ever played the video game, what is it, Pandemic? Um,
Or outbreak.
Outbreak. Maybe it's Outbreak. But basically, you
Hmm
like have to decide what virus you're going to do, where it starts, and then you have to basically infect the world and like eradicate all the population. It's actually a really fun game if it's not like timing wise happening at the same time as major life events.
Yeah.
So yeah, I used to play that quite a bit. So basically, like when COVID-19 happened, I was tracking it kind of like playing that game. And so you could see like flights happening and things being transmitted. And um, so yeah, it's kind of, call it trauma, call it deja vu, call it whatever you want. But I feel that we've been there, done that. And as somebody who hates cruises to begin with and will never voluntarily get on a cruise, this is not helping.
I agree. and they even have COVID-19 standard acceleration charts that show the
Mm-hmm.
growth rate, um, which
Yes.
is incredibly
Very interesting.
terrifying if you know how to read a standard acceleration chart and see what's going on, and it shows the deaths and the all this stuff. So it's interesting data, but when it's connected to death and disease, it becomes the interest becomes horrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. I think behaviorally, what intrigues me is how we move forward. And so I'm really going to be interested in, okay, so we've done this before. We're still very fresh on this because oh my gosh, it's only been like 6 years ago that all of this started, which is wild to think about. But here we are, and I think it'll be very telling to see what we've learned, what we have determined as not effective, if we're going to still employ the same ineffective strategies or if we're going to actually try something different. It does look like things, I shouldn't say things, I should be more specific. It does look like the disease is transmitted very differently, which I think will also be interesting to see based on human behavior and what people do. But this originates from basically rat droppings and rat saliva and exposure to those. And that I can switch over to. I feel so slow and like boomery when I have to like share my screen sometimes. So it feels to me like an eternity of a pause, but it's probably only like 2 seconds. But you know, that perspective of like, oh my god, everyone's waiting. It's so cringe. So yeah, it's spread by rodents. The concern is like it's flu-like in symptoms, but you have to catch it really fast. So like the minute you basically start experiencing flu-like symptoms, you need to seek immediate urgent medical care. It's kind of disturbing because like if you have POTS or dysautonomic functional issues, a lot of this is kind of like my norm. So if I have a flare up, I'm like, do I have the flu? Do I have COVID? Or is this just a flare up? And so you don't want to be that person running to the doctor every time you suspect something's going wrong. But I see something like this, I'm like, oh great, here we go again. So the paranoia
You
is
also don't
real.
want to be the person to not get, medical attention and then wake up dead, you know? As they
Waking
say.
up dead is the best phrase.
Yeah.
Because would you in fact wake up if you're dead? Let's
No,
ask
you
that.
would.
You would
But,
not.
it's a common parlance in the black community. Um, and then it's like, another one is like, your mom might say, if you die, I'll kill you. You
Hmm.
know?
Right,
Um,
right. I love it.
so yeah, no, it's and the thing is, we're not medical doctors, but I think that it's important to get the information out there that if you're traveling, if you're going to be around large areas, right now might be a good time to just keep that mask handy, use it, use it willingly, and when you see those people with those coughs, you could give them that look and you know do what needs to be done, because while um, it typically doesn't pass from human to human, there are ways that I saw, like saliva and
Hmm.
feces. That's one.
Which
There's
we're all going to be
also
obviously sharing.
exactly, um, and then there's also the fact that so yeah, don't share your drinks. There's also the fact that viruses can mutate,
Hmm.
and who knows how, if slash when it can become airborne. And we just need to stay safe.
Yeah, and even talking about this being a concern in health, so I just flew last week, and I wore a mask on my plane there and back. I also take little wet wipes, and I board early because medical issues, and so I will go in early. I will wipe down my seat with the wet wipes, and like the flight attendants will always like stare at me like we already cleaned the plane. But I don't know to what extent you've cleaned the plane, and I'm high risk for all of these things. I'm very high risk. I'm autoimmune. I have like heart issues with dysautonomia, and I don't even want your cold. I don't want any of it. And so, take wet wipes with you, antibacterial wet wipes. Take a mask with a filter, something that is, what is it, N95?
Yeah, N95. I think
Yeah, make sure it's actually filtered and appropriate. And if nothing else, like think of people, if you're not at high risk, please be mindful of those who are at high risk. The stairs and everything, I'm kind of over it, but they still happen. And it's like, folks, you don't know somebody else's story, so.
Exactly. And one of the things that I saw from a flight attendant, she said a lot of people don't realize one of the things that you need to do is wipe that seat belt. That's the biggest one. It's the one that people touch the most. That's the one that, people overlook, because she says, I see people wiping the front of the seat, the back of the seat and everything, but it's that seat belt, everywhere on that seat belt that gets touched the most.
Oh, mine's coated every time. That tray table, the little latch, it's all done. If I even use the tray table, usually it repulses me so much I can't. If you touch that window shade, make sure you wipe down that window, the handle. I open it up and then I wipe the window, because I've seen like literal face grease pressed against the window before, and that like grosses me out so much. It's like, how do you all not see these things? I don't know. That's me.
Well, what's his name? The Secretary of War, Pete Kegsbreath, he said that he doesn't wash his hands. He was like, I can't remember the last time I washed my hands. He said that when he was still a news anchor, but I mean, these are the people with merit that are running our country. It's going to
still
be
processing.
The Department of Infectious Disease. The war is through biological warfare at this point.
Jesus, like, I can't. And the people who cough and sneeze into their hands, come on. Like, don't. Use your arm. Use your sleeve. Like, do the grandma thing and carry a tissue in your purse. Like,
what do you think about this? This is what that's why, go ahead.
No, I'm processing. You go.
One of the things that I do now is I go like this. And, I kind of go like this, but like, I want it to be like, there's nothing getting anywhere, because even sometimes like this, you know what I mean, if you turn to your side and somebody's, like if I turn to my side and someone's like right there walking across the aisle, then I could totally understand if they get upset, like, bro, what the hell, you know what I mean, especially in that enclosed space, so I just try to make it as like, whatever I can do to minimize the spread of the, whatever's going on.
Well, and I also see that as a really good opportunity for stimulus control. And so, talking about, those who are at high risk, those who may want to identify safe people. And this isn't just necessarily related to disease transmission. This is related to anything as far as being a woman, being an outnumbered ethnic demographic in a space where you may not feel comfortable because you are surrounded by people who oppress you. This is very, very important. And so I think that this is a good opportunity to talk about behavior change and stimulus control, because if I'm in a space and I see somebody just sneeze into the air and not do anything about it, okay, first off, I'm not going anywhere near that space. I also carry hand sanitizer. I might spray in the air and just kind of do this. I know it doesn't do anything, but for me and my brain, it helps. But, if I see somebody doing what you just demonstrated, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to go sit by that person. I don't want to be anywhere near this other guy. uh, the anti-maskers for a long time, those were my signal. I was like, okay, so not only are you not willing to protect other people, because you yourself are clearly not at risk because you're not taking it seriously, or I was located in the South before I moved, and that to me was also a signal that politically and value-wise, we don't align. And so I felt unsafe in many ways. And so those were clear behaviors that I could use to identify, no, I'm not in a space where I would be helped if a man threatened me or assaulted me or whatever the case may be.
Exactly. And there's this subreddit called the Herman Cain Award. Do you remember who Herman Cain was?
The name sounds familiar, but I'm going to run to that really quick so I can follow it.
Yeah.
Please
so
enlighten.
Herman Cain was a politician who said that you don't need to mask, nobody's dying from this, everything's fine, like all this stuff. And then he died from COVID.
That was him. Got it.
Yeah. So, it's kind of like, the natural selection award dang near. Like, it's like, okay, well, you're talking about it like it's not really a thing and it can't affect you, and then it harms you. So we're going to have a whole bunch of new Herman Cain Award recipients if this whole thing goes off. And the subreddit is dark humor personified.
It's really good though. Like, just from me scrolling on the headlines, I'm like, oh, how have I not found this? This is beautiful. Anyway, I gotta put that down, otherwise
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep going. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem. It's definitely one to take refuge in, at least in a world where it feels like too many people are not serious enough about the concerns we should have.
Right. And it's interesting. I thought that a lot of people would be receptive to behavior change, especially relating to washing hands, wearing a mask, keeping distance, which, by the way, was my favorite thing about COVID. People
yes.
couldn't be that close to me. Oh, it's amazing. So I do miss that. So let's bring that back as well. Because people, like, crawl, and excuse my language on this, but people crawl up your ass when you're in a line at a store. And it's just like,
oh my God.
Why?
I
Why?
hate it. I hate it. So there's like a lot of people. there's like a white person that I saw on TikTok saying, "Why do white people, and I'm white, stand so close to
They
you
do.
in the airport in line?"
Yes.
And it's like, she said, "You know what? If next time someone does it to me, I'm gonna fart."
Absolutely. Absolutely, you should. And, like, it is a lot of white people. I noticed this. And it's like, I don't know what it is about my face or my demeanor or my vibe, if you will, as kids say. But, like, people feel that they can come up and just, like, tell me random things or, like, all of a sudden trust me. And I'm just like, what about this face tells you that I give a crap? Because, like, I don't know, I think I have RBF, resting bitch face, and, like, it puzzles me because I'm like, this is supposed to be a defense mechanism because I'm autistic and I don't need this. But yet people seem to look at me and somehow think, oh, I could tell her all about my life story and blah 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 and she'll care. No, I don't. Like, I'm glad you're well, but, like, no. Small talk makes no sense to me.
This is where being a large black man sometimes comes as
So
a benefit,
helpful.
because people don't want to engage, people don't want to sit next to me.
Oh my God.
And I'm thinking,
envy
I
that.
don't want them to sit next to me either, and I
Right.
usually don't want to engage with them either. But sometimes I
Right.
do get what you're exactly talking about. So then I'm like, It's not working.
Yeah. I need
So,
like a Jared costume that I can wear when I go to the store, and then maybe then people will back off from me a little bit. But yeah, like standing in a line, and they do that to you too in lines, right? Like they just
oh
literally
yeah,
are
it's
like
like
in your
so
ass.
close. And like I've had people like when I'm in line, especially I don't know why it's so often at the airport. Maybe I'm just at the airport a lot. Like
Yeah.
I have my backpack on, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like I get bumped, and I'm looking behind me like, what the hell? And then
Yeah.
like bro, like we're all going to the same place, so you can give me room. You know what I mean? Though I have had instances where like in what was it? Yeah, I was at the Anne Frank house and
Mm-hmm.
in the Netherlands, I believe. Was I? I don't know where I was. I don't know where I'm at anytime. I'm delirious. Maybe I have the
It's
Hantavirus.
fine. Maybe you have
So I was,
Hantavirus. You should get that checked.
yeah. I was at so I was at the Anne Frank house and like literally we have to like go through this crawl space.
Oh
And I'm
God.
waiting my turn to go through the crawl space
Right.
and the 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 dude who was working at the Anne Frank house was like basically telling us to go and I'm like I'm a tall man. There's nowhere for me to go. I need to wait for them to go. And he's like, please push forward, like just like a robotic, please move closer and all this stuff. And I'm like, maybe in certain European places, they're taught to pack tightly in close areas. I just told him, like, I have nowhere to go. I was so furious the entire rest
Yeah.
of the Anne Frank tour from this dude just being annoying to me. And maybe, like, I was like, maybe this is a cultural difference or whatever. But, like, literally couldn't do anything, couldn't physically do anything. And he's looking at me, I'm looking at him. I'm like, do you not understand how square peg, circle, don't fit? Like, so,
Well,
I
and
don't
it's
know.
not an accommodation either. Like, that's the thing. Like, I have so much anxiety just hearing you talk about a crawl space with people ahead of you and behind you. Like, that is nightmare fuel to me. And, like, I've always wanted to go to the Anne Frank house, but now I'm like, maybe I'll just look at it from the outside and admire it from afar if I go. And, because I don't want to get into that environment. And it reminds me, like, I'm a Disney adult, and so when I go to Disney World, they're like, fill the available space, and they like cram people into that haunted mansion pre-show, and I'm like standing at the edge because I'm literally having a panic attack. And like, I have to tell a cast member, hey, by the way, I'm autistic, I'm claustrophobic, like I cannot get this close to people, just so they know
Yeah.
why I'm not following the direction. And then I have to self disclose, and that's not safe because, if the wrong person hears that, then they,
Yeah.
anyway, people shouldn't have to self disclose their discomfort when it comes to those sorts of things. But unfortunately, we have to out ourselves sometimes too. And that's a whole other issue entirely. But yeah, and in a world where we spread so many different diseases and airborne pathogens and all this sort of thing, why would you want to be that close to other people, especially those you don't know their habits? Like, I don't know if you washed your hands in the airport bathroom. I don't, and it bothers me so much. People will just like stick their hands under for like a second and then just like walk out. It's like, that did not do anything. You might as well just have like wiped your butt with your hand and like go out and touch everything. Like, what?
Exactly. And one thing that I heard from like janitors, and people that clean restrooms is that oftentimes they'll see that like they have to replace the men's soap quite often, but then the women's soap they don't always have to replace it as often because women. And they're
Girl.
like, so women, what are you doing? Like sometimes it's a man that's the janitor. So women, what are you doing in there? Maybe women have their own soap which they use when they get to the restroom if it's public, which you have a purse sometimes, so maybe that's, but I see some head shaking.
So I have like a thing with like some soap sheets that I have in my Disney purse, my specific Disney lounge fly bag, because those soap dispensers may be out. I'm considering starting to carry it around full time because you never know if soap's going to be available. Most places are pretty good about refilling the soap dispensers, but
Yeah.
it's also me being an exception and me being paranoid about getting sick and all that, that I do have those sheets even in my bag. Women don't do that. What does disturb me is like women are doing a lot more than men are in public restrooms because we have menstrual cycles. And so, like, we are doing way more that requires way more intensive hand washing. And the fact that soap is not deteriorating faster is alarming to me. And this is somebody who, like, I learned early in my 20s, in my young bar hopping days, that the men's bathroom is usually cleaner. And I would cut in front of the men to get to the men's bathroom, and it's confirmed by any custodial maintenance worker that I've been in contact with. The women's bathrooms are usually grosser because women hover, first off, and they don't always wipe the pee off of the seat when they hover. Huge pet peeve of mine. Plus, they'll just leave their dirty feminine hygiene products. It's so gross. Like, do not ever look in those trash cans in the women's public restrooms. I know you have no clue what I'm talking about, but like, there's a little trash can. Don't look in those. Do not. You do, it's nightmare fuel.
Yeah, I've lived with women, but like, I don't have any sisters, so it's like it's a different experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
So, and for me, like bars, like when it comes to clubs and stuff, I learned to hate clubs very quickly. Stepping on my shoes, bumping around into people, being tall and just like looking pretty much down at people, like looking up at me. Just I do not like the club experience at all. Didn't like it from the beginning, and I'm glad to have aged out. I mean, some people might say, "Oh no, you can be in the club forever." Me personally, even if I had my own section, I don't. No, you won't see me. You'll see me in bed. You won't see me in bed, but I will be in bed, feet like a rubbed together. I'm good. I don't even like to be out that much anymore, anyways.
We went to. It was actually really cool. We have an indie theater here in Kansas City, and a couple of weeks ago they were showing one of the Twin Peaks movies in this movie theater, and I was like, that's so cool, because when it initially came out, I was too young to see it, and because it was rated R, I think it came out in like 91. I was like maybe in first grade. There's no way I would have. And so I was like, this is cool, let's go see that, because it's kind of like I can live this moment for the first time. It started at 9 p.m. and both my spouse and I were like, oh my god, 9 p.m. when it starts. So like, it's in the north side of town, so it's also like a 30-minute drive for us, and like, we're gonna get home at like midnight. And we were both like almost in tears, and he's like, did you already buy the tickets for this? I'm like, I did. I think we can do it, but like, it's gonna be a late night. So we're both having to like prepare for it. So like, I hear you. I hear you.
Get a nap in. Like, I don't know how I used to, like,
that's what we did. We napped.
It was youth.
It was youth.
Like, I can't, like, for you worked at GameStop. I low-key lived at GameStop. So, I mean, when it came to, like,
you were that guy.
Releases, well, the mall, I was a teenager creeping the mall, going to Mrs. Fields, hot dog on a stick,
Fields.
Hot Topic, and then, GameStop, check it out.
Yeah.
But
still love Hot Topic.
Releases, same. Midnight releases, though, were like really big for me when I wanted the game. Nowadays, I say, you know what? I pre-ordered it. Well, I do it online, like, you know what I mean.
I was gonna say, it's digital delivery, right?
Yeah, but like when it was like the Switch 2, I was like, I'll just order it online. Luckily, when I was living in State College, Pennsylvania, it's such a small town. I just got up like an hour before the place opened, like a half hour actually. There's only one guy in line. I got right behind him, and it's
really close, of course.
Best Buy. Yeah, just huge Best Buy. They were like, and they formed a line behind us, and then they were like, "We got two." And it was like, I know y'all didn't only get two, but they're selling two to the public, basically. So I got mine, and I was super happy.
That's amazing. Um, the Best Buy thing, was that recent?
That was, I want to say 2 years ago when the Switch 2 came out.
Wow. Okay, so I did not realize that Best Buy still does gaming consoles. I thought they were mostly appliances now and like phones. So, okay, they still do gaming.
I
Okay.
mean, at least at this small town, especially because, I mean, you only have like a few electronic spots. It's also
Hmm.
a college town, so,
Yeah. Our Best Buy is always like dead. I feel like when we go by it, both Trey and I are like, I wonder who's keeping them in business. Now we know it's you. So, like, next time
Well,
we have that conversation, I'll be like,
it's not like
Jared
I went to
goes,
a Circuit City or anything.
Circuit City. Oh my god. Oh, rest in peace. I did like Circuit City. But yeah, as a GameStop employee, like, uh, I had a love-hate relationship with those midnight launches. On the one hand, like, and I say this nicely, and I can say this because my spouse is a World of Warcraft gamer. Those were my least favorite because I don't know if this is like a universal term or a universal thought, but there is like a particular type of gentleman in society that will wear a fedora and use milady, and so they
Brady.
become the milady guy. They were always at all of these launches, and me being like one of maybe two women who worked at the GameStop I did, myself being the only straight woman, the other being a lesbian, I had to take the aggro for all of that. And it was just like, okay, you smell, you're visually not that I think
Doing
highly of
yourself
myself, but it's like we're in different leagues here. Like, the smell's not helping, your hobbies are not helping. Like, let's work on ourselves in our own spaces. And I always had to get volunteered. I was like the lowest tier key holder, and so I had to be there because my manager was like, I don't want to do the midnight launches. So
Yeah,
yeah, love hate
got
relationship.
voluntold. And you think that those were like the proto incels?
Oh yeah.
Like
Oh,
before incels
absolutely.
was even a term, it was a fedora
Yes,
wearing milady, tipping.
lady.
We all have that.
Bring the
I
single
just
rose in and creep me out and make me feel violated. It was so weird. I can't tell you.
I don't know what was going through those people's mind because like I'm not gonna say I was one of those people that played 2K because I never played 2K. I could not. I'd say let's go outside and actually play basketball. I don't want to play
Mm-hmm.
on some stick. I don't want to play a sports game on some sticks unless it's like
Yeah.
NBA Street Volume 2, which I love. So like there are definitely quote unquote cool gamers. I feel
Yes.
like, and then there are people who are like your typical. Uh, there are people who play like Super Smash and only Super Smash and have a
Yeah.
certain main and don't get a haircut and just like you know
Yep.
those kinds.
I I guarantee even now, if you had a lineup of men or masculine presenting individuals, I could tell you sports gamer, Call of Duty, WoW. I could probably easily pick out all of them. And it
Oh yeah.
sounds terrible because it's like stereotypes, but at the same time, like gaming is such a very interesting area of study when it comes to like human behavior because
Hmm.
those subcultures are so deep. So
Yes.
deep.
Yes. Yes.
I
And if you
would
have knowledge about them, you could do some damage.
Yeah, I would definitely say like the Madden, the FIFA, the 2K, all of those gamers who would come in for their midnight launch, they were good. They didn't have the smell. They didn't, you know, you could tell that they knew what a bar of soap was. Um, was it kind of weird? Did I always kind of like pass a little judgment on like, why are you getting this at midnight? It's just a sports game. Yeah, I did, but also I have my own biases. Um, I would say they were probably my top preferred. Anybody who came to like the Grand Theft Auto launches, they were pretty cool too, because that was like kind of my crowd. Um, but I would definitely put like World of Warcraft and there was another one, EverQuest.
League of
That's really
Legends.
dating me. EverQuest. What was that?
It's a League of Legends.
League of Legends. Well, that one isn't that strictly online downloadable. But yeah, absolutely, it's the same vibe. Um, Skyrim. That even though I love Skyrim, I don't always love the crowd. The Fallout games were similar, which is funny because I play those too. I'm a Bethesda person, unfortunately. They're not as bad as other companies.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely a scale, and at some point maybe I should like visually write out the scale
That'd be
of
interesting. Yeah. A tier list.
a tier.
list.
Oh yeah, I do
We should
love
do a
those.
tier list one day. We should do tier list episodes where for a little bit we just rank.
That's such a good idea. We should do that.
Tier list of BCBA types would be hilarious.
Oh my god, yes. Okay, I have like lots of great ideas now. So yes, I love where you're going. I don't know how we got onto the topic of GameStop and like gamer profiles and everything. Oh yeah, just like observing human behavior.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the World of Warcraft portray. He's gonna like probably listen to this and be like, "Why are you talking about me?" They were definitely the type that I think would be less inclined to ask me for my help or my opinion on about anything in the game store. But they were the first ones to bring me the single rose and make me feel uncomfortable walking to my car at night because I didn't know what they were capable of. Luckily, I was 20 something and naive, so I didn't really think as much into it. But now I'm like, oh my god, that could have been so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I played World of Warcraft for one summer break, and then lost the entire summer break to World of Warcraft, Hot Pockets, and Ramen. That's literally
That's
all.
what happens.
And I said never again. And I've relapsed a few times, but it was never as bad because I was like, there's so much. And the language that I use is intentional.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing, like Trey will pick it up once in a while, and I love that he has something that he enjoys, but I can tell when he starts playing it again because like I don't see him. Like he'll do the things he needs to do, but then like he vanishes, and I'm like, what? And then I'll come and find him in there playing WoW, and it's just like, oh, okay, so we're back on this. But he'll do that like every so many months. He'll just be like, oh, I just wanted to scratch the itch again. But it's definitely like a use disorder. I almost said substance, but I guess it is a substance.
Yeah. I mean, it's hitting those reward centers.
Yeah. I mean, do they have substance use treatment facilities for gamers? Yeah, I'm gonna look for that.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, look for that, please.
Oh, there are.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, there has to be. The way that, the world is going, there's a need,
Wow. Not to go all like quiet, but I'm just, yeah. Now I know.
Well, yeah. Let me share something. This went viral recently, switching it up a little bit. So, a kid went around their school sharing this and asking other kids to read this sentence. Poorly constructed sentence, first of all.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of students were unable to read the sentence, thus sparking a conversation online about the literacy crisis. Now, a lot could be said that the particular words that were difficult were Silhouette, Extraordinary, and Gauche. Gauche, totally understand.
I was gonna
Totally
say I don't
understand.
know what that was, but
Yeah. But also, you don't wear a silhouette. So I
right.
mean, so we're diving off to it. But it sparked
Right.
a conversation online about literacy crisis, and people, whenever the literacy crisis comes up, people figure, who do we need to assign blame to? A lot of times they assign blame to the students, and they assign blame to the teachers, and they assign blame to the parents. And I would argue that it's none of their faults. It's not
Mm-mm.
the students' fault because they don't
No.
pick how they learn, who they learn from, or what learning opportunities they have. It's not
Right.
the teacher's fault because a lot of times teachers aren't taught the science of reading, how to provide effective reading instruction, because our country does not require universities to teach the most evidence-based practices when it comes to how to read. And then the parents don't know what they don't know. They don't know how to teach reading. Most parents don't. You can try to read to your kid, you can try to teach them, but teaching reading is very difficult, very methodical, very spelled out. So when it comes to, real quick, what did you think about this? What I shared with
Oh,
you.
I absolutely agree. As somebody who tries to give benefit of the doubt to a learner every single time, um, that it bothers me so much when people try to put things onto the learner, the parent, anybody aside from the system that is putting the structure in place. Um, it's a cop out, in my opinion. And when students come to us, even at like master's and doctoral level, which we are working with on their writing, I it, when I see their tangible products and how they communicate with me, and I'm kind of looking at it from a whole comprehensive standpoint. Those opportunities just aren't available to a lot of our students. It's not that they aren't taking advantage of them. It's just first off, there's no like reinforcement involved. So why would somebody willingly go on their own to do those things if there's no benefit to them whatsoever? Because we're all motivated by those things. Um, but if it's not being offered in the first place as a requirement, then you can't expect them to pick that up. It's silly.
I agree. I agree. And one person on social media had a great take that I agreed with, so much that I ended up making a video. She, she goes by the name of Jordan Simone. She said, it's not the kid's fault, it's not the parents' fault, it's not the teacher's fault, it's the government's fault that the children can't read, right? So I ended up stitching her video, and it did pretty good numbers. And I basically said, yes, I agree with everything she said. It is the government's fault. And let me explain that the government has known the most effective practices to teach reading, but they willingly ignored and chose not to push those interventions, those practices, right? So we know this through this
I
thing
had
called
this pulled up
Project
too,
Follow Through. Yeah. And
which
I
we
could bring
referenced
up,
in episode 15.
yeah, exactly. And I could bring up the actual, like, I have a lot of actual articles. I'm going to bring up the AI overview only because visually it's easier for the viewer to distinguish and detect what we're talking about. And I've already confirmed that this is true because I have the actual research to back it up. So in this
Yeah.
case, the AI overview is accurate. And it talks about how Project Follow Through was the largest, most expensive educational experiment in the United States aimed at improving K-3 education for at-risk children. And it ultimately identified direct instruction as the most effective model for basic skills, cognitive skills, and self-esteem. Students actually ended up having higher levels of self-esteem when learning under direct instruction implementation, direct instruction interventions, direct instruction. And you can see these data right here. in not only the basic academic skills acquired, the problem solving skills, and their actual self esteem. So these data matter, right? One of the things that are required with direct instruction is scripted instruction, meaning that it's learner verified because it's tested with students, with kids, so that we can see what are the problems with this instructional method. Let's work on fixing those and then try again until it's almost errorless, right? So that it will work with the majority of students. And if it doesn't work with them, then you have a daisy chain of different things that you're supposed to do. If this doesn't work, do that. If that doesn't work, do this, right? One of the things that's kind of frustrating to me, but I really need to hear them out, is many teachers do not like scripted instruction. They feel like it harms their creativity. They feel like it's difficult to learn. They report having a whole bunch of issues with it. And in behavior analysis, we learn that if the person that is to implement the intervention doesn't like the intervention, it is hard for them to implement, or they have issues with it in whatever reason, they're not likely to implement the intervention, and they're not likely to implement it with high levels of fidelity, meaning they're not likely to implement it as designed and planned. So this concern that teachers have is valid. I mean, data-wise, it's not valid, but like what they feel is valid, and we need to attend and address that, because if they feel like it's hard and they don't like it, then we have to work on it so that they like it, or they're more likely to use it. And the thing is, most teachers that don't like it never became fluent with actually using scripted instruction, direct instruction, because once you actually are fluent with it, you can kind of be flexible with how you implement it. You can enter in your own personality. You can kind of bend it, shape it, help it be more personalized for the student and for you. But a lot of teachers don't get to that point because they don't build that fluency. Do you have any knowledge of direct instruction?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And as a behavior tech, I was fortunate enough to work in a clinic setting that, for all the things that they did wrong, which we could talk about in length about, they did have a couple of direct instruction protocols, language for learning being one of them. So we would use that with learners. And then there was a math one, I can't remember what it was called. There was also another protocol for reading. I cannot remember the names, but for some reason language for learning just sticks in my brain. But I used it with the most learners, and so I had the most exposure to it. Now, did it seem kind of, I'm going to try to choose my word nicely here. It didn't necessarily seem like challenging, and so it was very easy to implement, and so some people could take that as, well, you don't think I'm smart enough to, teach these concepts or whatever. I could see that, but in a world where teachers are overworked, underpaid, being asked to do all these things above and beyond what their general job description requires them to do and not get paid for it, I would actually be surprised that teachers push back, because it would take more time and more effort to customize these interventions than to just read a script. Now, did it seem like I wasn't getting a lot of mental stimulation out of that? Yeah, but at the same time I saw it work with my learners, and that alone was rewarding. So I could see that side of it, but as you were saying, that can eventually get to a place where you're comfortable with where everything's going. You can put your own flair or your own style on everything, and that's what I would do as an implementer, and I was praised for doing that, as long as I understood the concept, this is what the method is. And the repetition was something that annoyed me, but it's also vital to learning, is going over the same thing multiple times. So those were a couple of things that stuck out when I had used those interventions.
Yeah, I mean, that repeated reinforced practice is really important. And to teachers' credit, I do not think that they are given good learning opportunities en masse to learn direct instruction. how to utilize it, how to implement it, all that stuff, which kind of goes into how the system's messed up. And one of the reasons why I say that is because there was another study. We always have a whole lot of studies that was done called the Great Falls Precision Teaching Project, right? And it was the most widely cited demonstration of the effectiveness of precision teaching. Students showed marked improvements in classroom assessments overall, concentration and work habits, and displayed obvious enhancement in self-esteem. These effects led to use of precision teaching in all classrooms by all teachers, and formal validation for both regular and special education by the U.S. Office of Education Joint Dissemination and Review Panel. Results indicated 20 to 40 percentile point improvements in basic skill achievement among regular elementary school students. They did this in math and they did it in reading, and there were incredible jumps in where the learners were to where they went to, and some 40 percentile points in math, which is just incredible. You know what I mean? And as we know, precision teaching is a measurement and decision-making system, right? And often utilizes 1 minute timings to measure performance and improve performance through frequency building, improving the amount of times you're able to do something within a selected amount of time so that you can improve your fluency. One of the things that's important with reading is fluency. And when we talk about reading, a lot of times I feel like, what do you call it? I feel like behavior analysts, particularly, kind of feel like, oh, this is out of my wheelhouse. This is, I don't, know reading, and that's understandable. You haven't been specifically taught, but I would argue that reading is just stimulus control. Well, that word "just" is doing a lot of work there, but essentially, reading is stimulus control. So, I just want to kind of go over a little bit about how reading is stimulus control. So a discriminative stimulus is a stimulus whose presence a response has been differentially reinforced. Responding in its presence has been reinforced enough times that the behavior reliably follows. So the SD doesn't force the behavior, it does not cause it in a mechanical sense, it occasions it, meaning that there's a history of differential reinforcement that makes the response more probable in its presence. So examples are a red light. Nothing about the color red is inherently stop producing or produces stops. But a history of reinforcement, avoiding accidents, avoiding tickets, has established the control of stopping. Another example is your name. If somebody shouts your name, it has been paired with the consequence enough times that turning around is the occasion response. So a written letter, a grapheme, a word, all of these stimuli that can acquire discriminative functions throughout the same process happen the same way. And that is exactly what reading instruction is doing, whether teachers know it or not. So, for example, phonemic awareness is auditory stimulus control. Vocal responses must come under the control of individual sounds. B and P are different stimuli occasioning different responses. So phonics is conditional discrimination. A visual grapheme B acquires discriminative control over vocal response B. Cross-modal learned relationships, and the failures here equal Engelmann's dystecia, which is wrong stimulus-response relations established through bad instruction. Then there's decoding, which is chained stimulus control. Sequences of graphemes occasioning sequences of phonemic responses produced a blended spoken word, and verbal community differentially reinforces accuracy. Then there's sight word recognition, fluency, which is the strength of stimulus control, which is where precision teaching steps in. And then there's comprehension, which is interverbal behavior. Complex verbal stimulus arrays control the full range of verbal operands. So the through line is each level must achieve fluency before the next can develop. So I just wanted to quickly kind of say, like, hey, reading is stimulus control, and if behavior analysts start to learn how reading is, the science of reading, and how to teach reading, we could be extremely effective in that area, in reading education. And I think that that's one area that I would love to see behavior analysts work in, because it's somewhere where we can be extremely effective, but especially when it comes to that repeated reinforced responding, um, repeated reinforced practice, and then also the measurement of reading and reading improvement. So that's my spiel on reading.
Oh, I think it's great, and I love a good visual. So, seeing everything broken down like that is just like chef's kiss. Um, and I think it's important to also note, as when we kind of talk about precision teaching, direct instruction, all of these no longer required elements to discuss per the BACB, ABAI accreditation, all of the powers that be. If you want to learn more, you can find somebody to provide supervision in these areas, and you can gain competency in those. And I think it would be a disservice to yourself to not take advantage of some of those opportunities. Any precision teacher or anybody who's been exposed to direct instruction that I'm aware of is more than willing to share the gospel, if you will, of these amazing interventions, because we all love them generally so much. And we're genuinely confused as to why they're being pushed aside and thrown away. So yeah, my little take on that.
No, I 100% agree. And on resources when it comes to precision teaching, I would highly recommend my website, jaredvan.com/SCC, and you can learn all about precision teaching. And then it even has like help with reading the chart. And then there's a little practice exercise, so you could say, okay, how many is that? Oh, it's 1,000 per minute. Great. Next question. How many is that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's on the one line, which means 1 per minute. Fantastic. If you get it incorrect, let's say you say that's 1,000 per minute. Not quite. It can help you throughout that. The observation time. You could chart your own data, and it'll accurately pop up and populate on the standard acceleration chart. And then there's all sorts of fun stuff in there that I just wanted to create because I think it's incredibly important.
Yeah. So do you know coding? Did you do like all the coding for all of this?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I was gonna say, if you know how to code, tracking that, but
No, I wish I did.
that's definitely something that I want to kind of learn, but also I don't want to add anything else to my plate. Um, Another thought that I had that is now for some reason escaping me. Oh, so generally, like when we talk about our scope of practice or our competency levels or our mastered skills or anything, I have a hard time when somebody says, well, I read an article on this, now I'm confident enough to use the practice or whatever. To me, that's garbage. Even if you go and you just hear somebody present on something for an hour and a half where you fell asleep during all of the lecture, if it wasn't hands-on like a workshop, and even arguably then some workshops that I've seen are just basically lecture-based, which we all know is not effective for behavior change, based on our literature, I would argue that after going through your website with the guided practice, I would say that you probably would have competence to go and do precision teaching, if nothing else to kind of gain some confidence on your own, because it is guided, because it is like active responding, all of the things that we generally tend to say are more effective than lecture alone or just reading an article. So I just kind of want to give a little platform for that.
Thank you. I wholeheartedly agree. And I still think even when you do that, one of the best things that we can do as practitioners is communicate with other practitioners while making sure we attend to HIPAA, but also communicating, hey, what do you think about this? How do you think about this? I mean, of course, individualized situations are different and need different contexts, and the answer is almost always going to be, it depends. There's a lot of information that people, like in the precision teaching realm or in the direct instruction realm, they will have a lot of background knowledge and have read a lot and have a lot of experience to be able to help support you in a way where you're moving with more information instead of less. And that's where it becomes where it's like, just because you read that one article, you went to that one talk, there's still like more you should do. So like at the end of talks, usually you should see citations. You should check out the citations. You
Yeah.
should, reach out to people that are competent in those areas and ask and discuss with them. Of course, like I don't think that we talk about applied behavior analysis enough as a practice, because I believe we are practicing behavior analysis. It is a science, but um,
Yeah.
medical physicians practice medicine. We
Hmm.
practice our science. Sometimes the intervention does not work. And when we are looking at our, yeah, when we're looking
Gasp.
at our visual displays, we need to detect the degree to which they are working or are not and make database decisions. And that's what we're doing, you know? So, and that's why we're practicing and we're figuring things
Yeah.
out. If all of our information was perfect and we had all of the knowledge of their previous behavior and probability of the behavior occurring and availability to contrive the environment 100%, then you might be able to say something different. But so long as applied behavior analysis doesn't have all of those things, then we are practicing the science of behavior.
Yeah, definitely a different version. And to add, I think a lot of times practitioners tend to get hung up on the data and they lose sight of the actual implication of the intervention or the practice that they're employing. And so, I'll get students in, generally, I saw this a lot in like practicum and supervisory spaces, and they would say, but my graph looks really amazing because I started doing this intervention and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, but how does the learner actually feel about what you're doing right now? Because one could say that, well, we employed this punishment procedure where we spank the child every time they, get out of their seat and in the classroom. Well, out of seat behavior decreased. Well, gee, I wonder why. So your graph could look beautiful, but the social implications are always lost in that context. And so I think that's kind of a caveat I like to throw in there as well. It's like, just because the data points are beautiful doesn't always mean it's the best. And I would actually argue that sometimes if your data look too good, then there's something suspicious going on, because human behavior is not that reliable generally in these applied settings.
Exactly. I love that you brought that up, because I was like, a lot of people talk about social validity being the
Yeah.
eighth dimension, which I think is so important, especially discussing with people when you can, who are stakeholders and who are the actual individual, the participant, the client, what they feel about it. I remember, I'll never forget, for my dissertation, I had a student show the steepest decline in anxious thoughts and feelings. And then I talked with them about it in a post-study interview, and they said that they felt like it didn't help much. And I'm like, but the,
Yeah.
the numbers say differently. There's your quantitative measures, the numbers. Those are telling me a drastically different story than the
Mm-hmm.
qualitative measures, right? And
Yeah.
I learned through discussing with them, they had a way to, they were looking and saying things instead of freely thinking things that they could do well. So it really affected, because it was different learning channels that they were working with. I don't know if I'm like going above and beyond, but basically discussing with them those things. And then there was another student in the same study who didn't have a large change in the quantitative measures, but there were qualitative changes that were super significant, which were their anxiety attacks. I didn't have a way to measure the
Yeah.
magnitude of an anxiety attack, but they said that they had fewer and the magnitude was much less. So that matters, but I could only get that information if I actually talk with the participants in my study.
Yeah. It's shocking and groundbreaking, isn't it? Like, you wouldn't
Yeah.
think it would be so challenging, and it never ceases to. We could talk about social validity like for hours, I'm sure, and we will in the future. But it never ceases to amaze me the shock that students have when I say, okay, so you have a social validity measure for your caregiver. What are you doing about your learner? And I always get pushback, and it's like, but doesn't it make more sense for you to have a measure for them but not the parent?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that tells me where your perspective is and how you perceive your services. You are listening to the person with power over the person who needs to have power established. And to me, that's like the wrong way to look at it. So I challenge that framework every single time, and they're always shocked, always.
As you should. And the thing is, I think part of the shock comes from the fact that they had never been taught this.
Yeah.
They've learned to attend to the power, but not to the client, not to the person with the least amount of power, who's the one's behavior who we're trying to change. Like,
Yeah.
one of the things that I see with a lot of my students that they never even think about is they're like trying to measure like quote unquote aggression, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they have like 5 different behaviors for this
Yeah.
one behavior definition
Umbrella
of aggression.
term.
And I'm just like, okay, well, if you put all these behaviors together and your intervention is effective in reducing all except for choking out the teacher, the teacher is going to say it didn't work. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of problems with lumping all these behaviors into one operational definition because it really messes with your data display and how you interpret the data and what you're measuring and your intervention, and there's so many things, and I have to break that down to them, and I try to tell them in the comments of paper, and then I'm like, when we meet, we'll talk about this. I've learned to just be like, hey, I like where you're trying to go, but let's discuss this more when we meet next, so I can relay this information to you that we need to have, because there's just I know when they see my comments all throughout their paper, they're like, oh my God, I did so terrible. It's like, no, you did great. You've never done this before. Let's shape it up.
Right, totally. And it's a separate conversation. Like, if you can establish a response class and you can prove that there's a response class there, that's one thing. But most of the time, we're just pulling a term and we're saying, okay, well, I don't like this, but I don't like this, and this is happening too, and it's annoying. And but that's not. If you can establish that that's a response class and you can show the decrease overall in that response class, great. But most of the time they're not at that stage, and so like I could just see a dissenting voice being like, well, what about if it's a response class? So shut that down right now.
Yep, exactly. And then real quick, I got one question that was lingering on my mind.
Oh,
and I
no.
feel like this is a safe space to ask.
Oh no.
So every time I share my pronouns, I put he, him, his, because his is one of my pronouns. But so many people often only put like the she, her, they, them, and not the last part, theirs, the possessive pronoun. Do you know if there's a reason for that? Am I wrong for also putting his?
You're not wrong for putting his. I'm just lazy, so I don't know.
Because like nobody does it though. You know what I mean? I see
Maybe everyone else is lazy.
Yeah. I see the quote-unquote wokest among us, which I feel like I'm one of those people. And I'm like, why aren't you doing the possessive pronoun? What about that one? Which one do I use for that? Because what if I fuck that up? Nope.
Yeah, well, I don't know that it's. I think it just comes down to personal preference. And there's also, like, if you have a few different pronouns that you accept and that you identify with, then you could have more listed. And so I know a few people who use, like, the standard he, they, she pronouns, but then they also use neo-pronouns, which kind of go above and beyond, and they help you with further identity. Further identity. But I can't remember, like, the different levels. They're very interesting, though. But this is where, like, a lot of people push back, and they're like, well, I don't want kids on all fours eating cat food and, you know, pooping in a litter box in a classroom. But the neo-pronouns kind of go into the different forms of identities that people can have in addition to the layers of gender identity. And so I have seen individuals who I'm friends with and, you know, colleagues and stuff like that who've had like 3 or 4 different pronouns. So, I mean, I think it just depends on you. It depends on how you identify and what you want people to kind of know about your pronouns and identity.
Okay, because I was thinking about making a post about this, but I was like, am I going to get like completely slaughtered for asking about this? Which I don't think I will. But I'm just like,
as long as you're not talking about ABA, I think you'll be okay. The second you talk about ABA on social media, it becomes a free-for-all. And, like, that's the only thing that I've found to be so controversial.
I agree. I'm gonna make a post about, hey, behavioral analyst. Do you know that reading is stimulus control? That's the next ABA thing I'm gonna have. But like,
How could
oh my
somebody
God.
possibly get offended by this as soon as everyone's in the comments offended by it? Every
Yeah.
time.
I'm gonna send you a screenshot because I try to now actively avoid talking about ABA. I am Jared Van Education for a reason. I do
It's
not-
smart.
My identity, I'm moving away from that ABA this ABA stuff, which, you know, I'll always be a behavior scientist, which is how I like to identify, bringing back to identity. But
Maybe you should put he, him, behavior scientist as your pronouns. Sometimes I'll put like she, her, and then I'll put like comma ND for neurodivergent, and then that usually prompts a conversation about what does the ND mean, and I'll say, well, it's neurodivergent, and here's how that looks, and that actually becomes like an accommodation space. Whereas, you know, if you just see me and you just see, oh, well, you know, she, her, cool, she's neurotypical, like, but that's a bias, and so, you know, that could be part of your pronoun identity as well.
yeah, okay, good to know.
Let's make it a thing.
Yeah, good discussion.
He, him, BS, behavior scientist. BS.
Well, I feel like I'm gonna start making people frustrated with not the right. I don't care about frustrating the right, but I care about
Yeah.
making sure that, you know, people who like. I feel like I share my pronouns so that it's easier and more acceptable for other people. Who
Yes.
it might be more important to share their pronouns. So, you know.
It's stimulus control as well, and that we talked about stimulus control. I think that that's kind of the theme of this talk,
Yeah.
is stimulus control, and that is a thing that becomes a signal of a safe person, a safe space. And so when I am like in a Zoom meeting with a whole bunch of peers or colleagues and I don't see pronouns and I don't suspect gender nonconformity of anybody based on my learning history with them, that's a red flag to me, because I'm like, are you a safe person? Is this somebody who is in gender identity crisis? Do they feel they can comfortably come to you and disclose? And I've had many students reach out to me specifically and say, hey, I wanted to get your thoughts on this because I know that you and I see things similarly. And literally the only interaction I have with them is like, here are my pronouns, here are some resources, and, you know, teach the course. And so I have to assume in part that it's because of those identity markers. And so, yeah, it's important. And that's why I try to use gender neutral language when it comes to my spouse. I rarely say husband, rarely. And it's uncanny how many people under stimulus control assume that I am, in fact, a lesbian because of that. And it's like, no, actually, my husband is heterosexual. What's the word? Oh my God, why am I blanking?
Cisgender.
Yes, cisgender, thank you. He is heterosexual, cisgender. We are both heterosexual, cisgender. I'm just trying to make this world a less biased place, a little bit at a time. So it goes to all of that with stimulus control. 100%, I agree.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree as well. I think stimulus control is a good identifier for this.
Yeah, it's stimulus control that we're talking about stimulus control.
How meta.
I love it. I love it. So is this the part where we say like, subscribe,
Yes.
comment?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Hit the notification bell to make sure if you're on YouTube, and then reply to a comment. Ask us what you want us to talk about. Also, we want to know what you want us to communicate about. And if you are one of our amazing 11, 12 watchers, thank you for watching. The Learner's Always Right. We got like 11, 12 over across 2 episodes. I mean, it's no 80% across 3 sessions.
Oh my
But we'll
God.
take it.
I'm dying to know who the 11 are, though. That's the thing. I want demographics. I didn't show yourselves in the comments. I just want to know.
I might be one of them because I scrub it for so it might be 10 or 11.
Okay, so 10. The 10 of you, please show yourselves in the comments. Oh my god, that's amazing. Love it.